Hello, welcome to this class designed to help release the lower back. And often when we experience a little bit of difficulties with the lower back, it's because we're quite tight into the front of the body as well, and we need to stretch the psoas muscle, that muscle that goes, this pair of muscles that goes more or less from just under the rib cage here, just attaches the rib cage, goes around, back and through, and then all the way here. So it allows you to fold forward. But obviously when you sit, it's often quite tight. So we'll do a few postures to help release it. So we'll start lying down. And here as we lay down, we'll extend our legs and take the palms facing up towards the ceiling. And then start to notice how the weight of the body resides into the floor. If you can, you're going to soften and drop your body down. So how does one soften? Well, if you open your teeth and your lips and you separate there, and particularly not talking, you might feel a release. So it could be a release in the jaw that you've just opened, but also into the diaphragm, which is linked, that muscle linked there on the sides to the psoas, and this can release it. Simply take a few breaths. With your mouth opened. And then you're going to bring both feet flat to the floor. And as you do so, notice that shift that happens into the lower back. Then, as if you had something underneath your right heel that was quite slippy, you're going to extend the leg. Not completely, just stop short of relaxing it to the floor. And then bring it back in. And notice what you feel is working on this side as you extend the leg, as you inhale, as you slide it back in as you exhale. One last time. And when you release the foot, notice what happens as well when your foot anchors back down, gently. Let's try this on the other side. Twice more. So as you inhale, you extend. Notice, perhaps this to the outside world may look like a subtle movement, but how subtle does this feel in your body? And then once your left foot anchors back down to the floor, what happens? Just a self-inquiry, really. Take the knees in towards the chest, hug them. And then releasing the left foot flat to the floor, you're going to extend the right leg, but keep it just hovering up off the floor here. So it's not on the floor, it's about, I don't know, maybe an inch or two off the floor. Hands to your hips here. As you inhale, you lift the leg, but no higher than the other knee. As you exhale, you release. And again, let's do this twice more. Notice the weight of your leg. And again, you're accessing the psoas muscle here. Okay, so from here, you're going to go straight out to the side. Keep the toes, the knee, the shin pointing upwards. So you're not openly rotating the leg out, you're keeping it straight. But you are taking just a little opening out to the side, and you come back. There, you're still hovering up off the floor. Twice more. You may need to make sure that you anchor the left foot and that the left knee is pointing up towards the ceiling to prevent the hips and the pelvis from becoming unstable. Then come back. Again, as both feet are anchored in the floor, notice what has happened into the lower back and the pelvis. Let's do this on the other side. So you extend the left leg, it's hovering up off the floor. As you inhale, you lift it no higher than the other knee. As you exhale, you release. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Then here, 3 times towards this side of the mat. So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Let's try this one last time. And then release. Take the feet a little wide, wider than the hips, have the arms resting into a T shape or a little further down, and then you're going to take your knees from side to side. Just to release a little bit of the effort that has just happened into your psoas muscle, and you also get a gentle twisting into the waistline and into the lower spine. Come back through towards the center, and then this time we'll work on our bridges. Having the feet flat, so you can use a brick in between your feet if that helps, or for arthritis in the knees or just for stabilizing the knees. Equally, you could have it in between your thighs here, so that as you press the feet into the floor, when you inhale, you can lengthen the tailbone and just pivot the pubic bone towards your belly as you lift. So it might actually help to have the hands onto the lower belly. And then as you exhale, you release. So when you exhale, your fingertips touch one another. When you inhale, you lift. When you exhale, you release. Let's do this another 3 times. One last time. Let the pelvis and the lower back relax. Take the brick away if you had one. Hug the knees in towards the chest. And then we're going to rock back and forth to do some spinal rolls that will help stretch and release the entirety of the spine. So you tuck the chin in towards the chest, engaging the cervicals. You take the hands behind the thighs, and then you can start a little rocking motion. Of course, if this doesn't suit you, you can gently roll over onto the side and then come up to this hovering posture that will end up here, being, if you like, into a half boat posture. Take the hands away, slide the legs out to the side, and if you can, bring yourself back up into lunges. So here, we're going to take the right leg forward and slide that leg a little bit more so we can get a stretch into the front of the left thigh. Not happy with your knees, you can double up on the mat so as to get a little bit of support. You can use a mat support, or you can tuck the toes and then come up into a high lunge. Here, inhale and lift the arms up. Take the right hand to the side of the hip and then reach towards the right side with the left arm, but make sure the shoulder and the hips are aligned on the left side. So you might feel more of a stretch. Keep that tailbone down, so that pubic bone pivoting towards the belly. And then come back through towards the center. We'll change sides, so take the right shin down, take the left foot forward, and again that foot a little bit forward so you're at a slant here, so you can feel this somewhere. Then we're going to inhale and lift the arms up and relax the shoulders. Take the left hand to the left hip and then take the right side of the body, of the upper body and the arm towards the left side. More or less intense. Remember, lengthen the tailbone, keep that belly button, or rather the pubic bone, pivoting towards the belly so it gets a sense of being engaged. And then here we're going to release forward, tuck the toes, and take the back leg all the way towards the front. And you're hanging down here into an Uttanasana, a standing forward bend. So you may have a break, you may, to accommodate your back, have your hands onto your shins rather than all the way down to the floor. So you may be into your half a tabletop here, or you may be hanging all the way down. If you're hanging all the way down, you might find it helpful to come back and forth onto your toes, to have a little play with the balancing here. Making sure that the head is relaxed. And then slowly you can uncurl the spine, or if you're into the half a tabletop, come back up. There we go, the crown of the head comes back last. We have made it all the way to the top. From this we'll be working onto our lunges and actually our warrior one here. A great way of stretching the front of the body. And not dissimilar to that lunge that we just did, except we're standing up. So you are about hip width apart, you take the hands to the hips. The weight onto the left leg, lift the right leg, and then you're going to take it back. So that you're onto the ball of the foot, onto the back foot. And you might already be feeling enough of a stretch now. Make sure that you're wide enough in your hips so that you find your balance. You may stay here, or you may release the outer edge of the back foot down towards the floor, but keeping the awareness onto the inner foot. So imagine or look at your right inner arch. Imagine it's lifting so that there is an engagement here, so that you can roll the right hip forward and the left hip back. And then you may gently feel something here. And you can, if you want, inhale and lift the arms. That gives you a little bit more of a stretch onto the right side of the body. Hold for another couple of breaths. And then release. We'll take the back leg all the way towards the front, so you might want to step it. Take a few steps if you need to, coming back to the center. Let's do this to the other side. So this time we take the weight onto the right leg, lift the left leg, step it back, and we'll make sure that we're wide enough so that we have the big toe man, little toe man, inner heel, outer heel of the front foot down to the floor. And you may even here just stay onto your high lunge. Or Put the outer edge of the back foot down to the floor, but make sure that the inner arch is lifted and that inner thigh is engaged, so that you can roll the back hip forward and the front hip back, aiming to have those hips facing forward. You may even lift the arms up and stay here for about 5 breaths. Release your arms down, step the back leg, or you can come up onto the toes and then step it all the way forward, and take a couple of breaths here to notice the work that's just happened into your legs and your pelvis. Moving to a warrior 2 here. Taking the weight onto the left leg, lift the right leg and then step it back, and this time step it fairly wide, maybe even a little wider. And the front toes, we're going to start with a leg straight. Toes pointing towards the front of the mat, and the inner arch the front heel in line with the inner arch of the back foot. Unless you feel really wobbly or unless this feels really uncomfortable, in which case you can take the back foot a little bit more towards the long end of the mat. Here, looking at your leg, I know my knees knock in, so I particularly here want to feel like I'm rolling my thigh out. So I'm going to take my hand to my thigh, roll it out, bend the front knee so that my knee is tracking with my toes. And then I'm going to take the back arm long, the front arm long, my torso is facing towards the long end of my mat, taking my shoulder blades together and down. Again, we'll stay here for about 5 breaths. When you lengthen the tailbone, you can pivot the pubic bone and feel that support here. One more breath. Hands to the hips. I'm going to face back towards the top of my mat and bring the back leg in. I'll change sides so that you can see. Actually, I'll stay where I am, but take my other leg back so then I'm facing towards you on the other side. I've got my weight onto the right leg, lift the left leg, and then take it back. So again, I am wide enough so that when I have my legs straight, front heel is in line with the inner arch of the back foot, I'm going to take my hand to my thigh to visually but also physically feel the thigh going back. So it's as if you're sort of skimming the skin towards the outside so that the knee can stay in line with the toes. Good, important for the alignment, but also important for your hips here. Lift the arms, relax the shoulders, gaze towards the middle finger of the front arm. Remember the back foot as well, it's similar to the warrior 1 where your inner arch joining is like a zip all the way to the top of the thigh. So you're engaging there. Take another breath. And then release. Straighten the front leg. Take the back foot all the way towards the front. Take a couple of breaths to notice how you feel there. And then this time we'll come to a side angle. I'll go to the other end of the mat so that you can see both facing towards you. So take the weight onto the left leg, lift the right leg, and step back and step wide. So that here again, when you have that front leg straight, you can outwardly rotate it, but keeping the big toe mound, little toe mound, inner heel, outer heel to the floor. And then the front heel is in line with the inner arch of the back foot. That back foot arch is lifting, and then you're engaging here. You outwardly rotated the front thigh so that the knees are in line with the toes. You can take the arms out to shoulder height. And then this time, from the warrior two, we're going to inhale, hinge forward, exhale, either release the arm really lightly to the leg or take it a little further down and then straighten that arm. And here, this is your side angle. From the back foot all the way to the hip and then all the way to the hip up. It's a divided stretch, so from your hip all the way up and then all the way down. So you're stretching down and you're stretching up. Your head quite relaxed. Stay here for another 3 breaths. Remember, you could have the hand to the thigh, so the forearm to the thigh. As long as you're not taking too much weight into it, you could also lift the arms by the side of the ears if you wanted. 1 more breath. And then we're going to use the core strength to come back. Straighten the front leg. Hands to the hips. Let's change straight to the other direction. Right toes facing towards the top of the mat. Left foot in a little bit so the left toes are pointing towards the top left corner of the mat. Making sure you have a lot of space. Front heel, inner arch of the back foot. Rotate the front thigh outwards. Press onto the foot so that you can feel the inner arch lifting and that front thigh activating. Bend the front knee, take the arms to shoulder height. Then you hinge forward and you can decide to either release the forearm down and then take the arm up. Note here, if the shoulders don't feel up to it, or if it's too much of a stretch, you can keep the hands to the hip as well, as long as we've got that openness into the front of the body. And you can maybe release a little further down or not. And then take another 3 breaths here. Using your core, pressing your feet, come all the way back to the warrior two. Straighten the front leg, hands to the hips. Straighten the feet, and then you can pigeon to the feet back towards the center. Those postures, those standing postures, are great to strengthen the muscles that are around the hips and the sacroiliac, which are basically all the fused vertebrae, your sacrum, right at the bottom of the spine. Having had an injury myself there, I can tell you that you definitely want to have the suppleness, the mobility, but also the strength around those. And that is definitely obtained through those postures. To finish with, we'll come down to the floor and take a few twists. So here, any way that feels comfortable, make it down to the floor. Take the legs forward. Sorry, take your bottom towards your heels rather, forward. And then here, you can decide to have the toes and the heels and the knees together and your arms to shoulder height, or have the shin parallel to the floor and the toes and the knees and the heels together, or to have the knees quite a lot close in towards the chest so that you can hug those knees in. Whichever option you decide, feet to floor, shins parallel and knees in, will have a slightly different effect on your spine. I'm going to take the shins parallel, take my arms out, inhale, and then I'm going to take my knees over to the left. So I'm aiming to keep the toes and heels together, my knees may separate, my upper body stays on the floor, and then I'm going to gaze over towards the right arm, only if that's comfortable for your neck. And then take another 3 breaths here. And nose to centre, knees to centre. Over to the other side. So this time on the exhale, knees come over towards the right. Shoulders are relaxed to the floor and the gaze comes over to the left. Softening in your facial features, softening the supporting side, the leg. And then 3 more breaths. Bring the gaze to the centre, the knees back through towards the centre. Feet come down to the floor. Separate the feet, allow the knees to knock in. Take your hands to your lower belly. So right now the heels of my hands have found my hip bones, my frontal hip bones, just resting there. And then you can decide to extend the legs one by one, pressing the back of my head to roll my shoulders away so I have as much length into the neck as possible. And allow yourself to observe your breath here for the next couple of minutes. Again, relaxing your facial features and parting your teeth and your lips. And as if you were a little detective, take your magnifying glass of your mind inside of your body, round about where your hips, that space between your hip bones, and then the pubic bone, moving up onto the belly and the diaphragm. Just notice how this feels, and into the back of the body as well. Above the back of the pelvic rim, your lower back. How is that all feeling right now? When you feel ready to have a little wiggle of the toes, the fingers, the ankle and the wrists, and then maybe a stretch. Bring the feet flat to the floor. Roll over onto one side, curled up, supporting your head. Opening your eyes when you are ready. Pressing your top hand down to the floor, making your way back up to the most comfortable seated posture of your choice. Notice how you're feeling right now. Inhale, arms up. 2 more. take one more breath. Release the thumbs to the forehead for kind thoughts towards yourself and others. To your lips for kind words towards yourself and others. And to your heart for kind actions towards yourself and others. I salute you. Namaste.